Why hello and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield, and today we're going to do a lore video on the real stories behind the Council of the Ring with Elrond, okay? So, my backdrop here, if you're not familiar with what this game is, it's called Lord of the Rings Online. My channel I do a lot with this game, but today we're going to do a lore video, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about lore, and the reason being is I'm going to compare it to this game on one thing I love about Lord of the Rings Online, okay? So Lord of the Rings Online takes the real stories from the books, right? So even in the movies, right? Boromir, that we love from the movies, right? There's some stuff changed in the Council of the Ring and the stories behind it. So in a real quick lore video right now, I'm just going to tell you about it so you can be more the wiser, right? All right, so the original stories are Boromir is traveling across the world, right? So here's the world of Middle-earth. I love using the maps in this game. So we started here in Gondor, right? A lot of people don't realize that in the movies they show, especially in the extended edition of the Fellowship, no, the Two Towers, I believe it is. They're going backwards, right? The Two Towers, it's extended edition. They show that Elrond has sent out a message to all the free peoples of Middle-earth to come to this council meeting at Rivendell, right? The Council of the Ring, as Elrond famously says, right? You are gathered here today to answer the threat of Mordor, right? As you all know from the movies, the Fellowship. But anyway, a lot of people think, well, Denethor was told about it, and then he asks Boromir to go. Faramir asks, can I go in his stead, right? And then, of course, you know, we know that whole story and how they portray that in the movies. But not quite correct at all, even though it is a very good, the movies are amazing, right? The Peter Jackson adaptations are fantastic, very entertaining. But they had to condense the storytelling a little bit in the movies. So they're like, oh, well, they were all summoned. But in reality, guys, Boromir travels, right? Reason he travels to Imladris at all is because he keeps having this super vivid dream that he needs to find the sword that was broken, which he knows the only sword in their lore and history would be the sword, the king, right? The sword that Isildur got broken while he took the ring off, right? Sauron's finger, and he knows that's in Rivendell, right? So he asks his father that he can go to Rivendell. Now here's the catch a lot of people don't realize from this story too. Faramir had the same dreams, the identical dreams. So Boromir and Faramir as brothers were talking and saying, why are we having these basically visions being told to find the sword, right? In our dreams. So he's like, this is interesting. So Boromir leaves on this long journey to come to, he travels up through along the rivers here of Rohan, travels all the way up through the Gap of Rohan, right by Helm's Deep, comes to Isengard. He actually has a conversation with Saruman, who is a little bit interested, but he doesn't quite trust him. That you see that in the Lord of the Rings movies here, okay? Sorry, not movies. MMO, the game, LOTR. They try really hard to be the movies. And he goes through Dunland, and then he comes up through Dunland, right? He keeps traveling north. He comes to Swanfleet, which is the new area in Lord of the Rings Online. And the story plot actually shows, this is before the Fellowship books, right? He travels up through Tharbad, all right? He travels through Tharbad. He loses his horse. I don't remember off the top of my head if his horse dies. I'd be very sad if it was the case. But he loses his horse, and now he's on foot. In this story, our character kind of finds him and helps him a little bit. We help him get his stuff together, and then he kind of travels on. And then he moves into Cardolan, right? And he keeps going. And then our story in the Lord of the Rings Online, which again is so cool, is that they tie it in with our character, that we kind of help Boromir, and then he goes on his way, right? And then we're kind of trying to help him find stuff, and there's some other characters they added. It's really cool, and again, if you want to know this, go watch my adventure playlist or my live streams, and we've been going through the story plot in Lord of the Rings Online. It's really cool extra stuff. But back to Tolkien lore, okay, because we're sticking to Tolkien lore. It is very realistic. He lost his horse in Tharbad. He walked the rest of the way. I believe he got some help in Bree. I don't remember exactly in that part, but there is information that Tolkien talks about in there, but that's not important for this discussion of the Council of the Ring. And then he goes through the Lowlands. He travels all the way to the Trollshaws, up to the top of the Trollshaws into Rivendell, right? And he gets to the Council of the Ring, which it is called the Council of the Ring in the book. But the catch, the clincher, okay? The clincher to this is the fact that everyone who was there was not planned on being there, okay? So, and I'll explain why that's important, okay? So, Boromir just happens to be there. literally an emissary of the biggest and strongest country, pretty much one of the biggest, strongest countries in the world, right? Erebor just so happens that already at this point, Bilbo's already at Rivendell, right? Because he already gave the ring to Frodo a few years earlier, and he's at Rivendell resting with the elves. The ring wraiths have been looking for Baggins at this point, right? With Gollum, as you all know from the movies. That really is the case. But a lot of people don't know is they actually traveled to the north in Rovanion and came to Erebor up here. They came to Erebor, and they actually asked the dwarves, hey, we'll give you this stuff. Can you tell us where Bagginses are? And of course, King Dane, who we all know is the cousin of Thorin Oakenshield, who died in the Battle of Five Armies, basically realizes they're talking about Bilbo, right? They don't tell him crap. The dwarves are like, heck no, we're not telling these creepy, shady people about Bilbo and where he lives, right? They're like, no way. So they basically say, shove off to the ring wraiths, right? The dwarves are like, get out of here, or we'll kill you, right? Of course they couldn't, but, you know, they tell the ring wraiths. Of course, the ring wraiths were disguised, I'm assuming, in hooded capes and, you know, whatever, because they're looking for the ring at this point. So at that point, Dane sends Glóin, who is the friend of Bilbo, right? Who is in the Hobbit company, sends him to Rivendell to warn the elves and warn Bilbo, because he knows Bilbo's there, to warn him that the ring wraiths are looking for Baggins. We don't know why, right? Because they don't know Bilbo had the Ring of Power, right? The dwarves don't know that. So they send that emissary, and who goes with Glóin to Rivendell? Gimli, his son, right? So that is how Gimli got there, right, for the council. Aragorn was there because he obviously helped the hobbits, right? And then, of course, Gandalf gets there. As we see in the movie, he was delayed by Saruman because he got betrayed. But Gandalf, of course, is there because of the hobbits. Aragorn is there because of the hobbits. And Aragorn kind of works out of Bree, Eriador, and Rivendell, because that's kind of where he's been living at this time. And then Legolas actually had Gollum in custody in the dungeons of Mirkwood, and Gollum escaped, right? So Legolas went to Rivendell to report to Elrond and the elves that the Thranduil and elves of Mirkwood had lost Gollum, right? Which was they knew was an important character who had the ring at one point. So that's why Legolas is there. Boromir shows up, which they do in the Lord of the Rings Online. Boromir shows up because he's having these dreams to come there, and this goes to a much deeper point of Tolkien's lore, guys. They all just happen to be there. Well, that's a very interesting coincidence. Well, no. Obviously, when it came to Boromir and Faramir, they were getting dreams told to them, right? And that is by character Ilúvatar, right? The god of Middle-earth, right? The creator, the one, Elu, right? Eru, excuse me, the one, or Ilúvatar, you know, the maker, the creator. So God was basically orchestrating, making this fellowship team to defeat evil, okay? And see, this is very important in Tolkien's, as Tolkien was a very Catholic, Roman Catholic, believed, that's his beliefs. I'm not Catholic myself. I am Christian, though. I'm more Protestant, but that's not important, right? This for the story and the lore. But the point is, it is important to Tolkien, because yes, the movies did a great job. I loved how they did in the movies. I thought it was cool that they basically summoned everyone for the council. But it's even more cool in Tolkien's lore because everybody was there kind of by the will of God. He was orchestrating the timing that everyone would be there, right? To make this fellowship, because he knew it would be able to counter Sauron, who's basically an evil fallen demon, angel, right? That's kind of, even though Tolkien didn't like direct comparisons, right? To like real life things and other stories to his story, right? Or anything real life too. He didn't really like that. He wanted it to be its own fantasy, right? So I try not to do that too much. But it is cool to know that the Lord of the Rings Online, this amazing, wonderful game, when they added the new regions of Swanfleet here in the year 2022, for this lore video, when I'm making it, and Cardolan, that they thought about that with the storytelling, that the whole story is our wonderful Boromir. He's going through, and he tells us during the game here that he kind of confides in us that, I have these dreams that I have to find the sword that was broken. I know it's in Rivendell. Can you help me get there? Kind of thing. And he kind of knows where he's going, but of course he lost his horse and all that kind of stuff. So he's got to talk to the Rangers kind of thing. And another character that's made up is trying to find the Rangers and stuff. But anyway, that's the original Council of the Ring lore, okay? We did that in under 10 minutes. That was pretty good. But again, I wanted to tie it to this game and we use the maps in this game for this particular video. This is not always how I do lore videos on this channel, but hey, if you liked it, don't forget to throw a like and subscribe on there, my friends. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield. We do voiceovers here on Voice of the Rings in Lord of the Rings Online and everything Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. So I really enjoy it. But I think this is really important. It's really cool to know. A lot of people don't know this, and LOTR really dives into this and does a more justice to Tolkien's lore than Peter Jackson's movies did, right? That were actually changed. It wasn't the original story. But still, Peter Jackson's are fantastic too. But I think it's cool that LOTR sticks to and stuff. And anyway, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day in Middle-earth. Hopefully you learned a little bit. I think it's cool how Legolas and Gimli got there. Aragorn and Gandalf, we kind of was the same as the movie. And Boromir had a whole different reason for being there, right? And then, of course, the Hobbits, pretty much the same as kind of the movie. They kind of came along with Frodo. Yeah. Anyway, maybe you want some more lore videos that are a little bit tied into LOTR, I can do that, or we'll just do some flat more lore videos on other topics. So, you guys have a great and wonderful day, Miller. Thanks for listening for the whole video. Thanks to my wonderful patrons for their support. Thanks to Skumley for being a royal guard. It means a lot. If you guys are curious and supporting the channel in this way, you get Discord. Any of the levels of Patreon give you Discord. We have a lot of fun in there. We're trying to build a group of people in there. We got like 10 of us. It's been pretty fun so far. At the time of this video, it might be bigger later. Subscribe button's there. Again, if you want to join our kinship here on Lord of the Rings Online, whether you're new or an old player, we're on the server CrickHollow. You have to be on the server CrickHollow to be invited, and I can invite you during a live stream, or anybody else can invite you that's one of these officers here. All right? We have lots of people. And over there, next episode for lore videos and LOTR Tale with voiceovers over there. Have a great day in Middle-earth, and I'll see you in the next episodes of Voice of the Rings. Baruch Hazad Kuzad I menu. See you guys. Have a good one.